Hey there, Amanda Keeler here with another expert interview for you. Today we're talking with Mary Ann Strange, who is a confidence communication expert who helps creative and visionary entrepreneurs increase their reach and visibility through speaking with confidence, authentic style, and authority. And this interview is one that you do not want to miss. Mary Ann and I explore the best way for coaches to engage with their ideal clients, whether that be online or in real life, how to overcome the feeling of being an imposter or the fear of being in the spotlight. And Mary Ann shares her personal journey and the challenges that she had to overcome with that. And then she also shared her 5 steps for building confidence when speaking. So let's get right to it with Mary Ann Strange. Welcome, Miriam. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure. A real pleasure to be with you guys.
Thank you. So you have a personal journey that sparked your interest and led you to do what you do now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Amanda. Well, it all started not quite at the beginning, as many stories do, but in sort of childhood. I grew up in a fairly large family, but I was the youngest and on the quiet side. So though I noticed I quite liked talking, playing shops, etc., when it came to talks, family talks, I didn't get much of a chance to get my opinion out there. And I didn't realize at the time that maybe that was just because I was young and we were all fighting to be heard. So when I look at it now, I think, it's a really interesting learning ground. But at the time, I just thought, I started to create stories that, well, I was quiet, maybe I wasn't worth listening to, all of those things. I started to build up some things and sometimes not bother as often to, get it muscle in there and say, hey, listen to me. And as I grew, it's sort of early adulthood, and I looked around and I started to be really quite interested in, because I tend to like to go deep and observe from people around me as well as the learning. And I used to notice that there's some people who came across really confident and they were very sort of, not quite loud, but they were obviously not nervous about what they were saying. They weren't intimidated about what they were saying. And even if they weren't getting their facts all right, people listened to them. And other people like me who are a bit more hesitant and, considered, or do you really want to listen to me? Didn't get listened to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, this isn't fair. Why is this happening? And I saw it more and more with other people. And to jump forward, as I say, I tend to like to go deep. So it wasn't enough for me to just observe what was happening and bit by bit see if I could change a few things. When I had children, and one of my young children needed to see a speech and language therapist. It just wasn't pronouncing words. He was only about 4 at the time, just to check if he needed some help. And I looked at it and thought, I could do that. I could do this game. That looks fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I found out I was really passionate. It's I don't know, didn't they say sometimes if you're frightened of something like blood, as a doctor, you might often become a surgeon. So it was that sort of draw. It sort of pulled me in. So I was really interested in that. So I started studying. I went to university, studied speech sciences, and I qualified as a specialist speech and language therapist. And still, it drew me into that area of children and adults who stammer, because and that's what was my initial journey, sort of more professional, into finding out. Because all of their stories were so different that it's often what we say to ourselves and the stories that we say to ourselves that are just as important as to what we say. They influence what we say and whether we are going to bother to say. And then in my practice, I started to get a lot more business people come and say, hey, Mary Ann, I'd like some help for these presentations. And so that's I started to, I hang up my hat as a therapist and realized that there are a lot of other people out there in the business world, especially the entrepreneurs, the people who are working for themselves, people with expertise, that they might have a lot of value to offer, but just like me, many, many years ago, might think, well, yeah, but who wants to hear me? And so that's really what led me to do what I'm doing now, is to help to get those people out, get them and their message to shine, so they really can have the effect they want to on the world or their particular client niche.
Wow, that is it's so amazing how your family of origin and then children informed your career changes. What
Yes.
challenge did you have to overcome to transition from therapist to your present work?
Yes, sort of good question. So as a therapist, though I was very keen and I really loved what I was doing, as a therapist, I was very much trained. I did do things like, if I asked my clients to do things, I'd make sure I had at least done what I was asking, so it was feasible. But I was in the background. I wasn't sharing stories about me because it wasn't really relevant. They'd come for a certain amount of time. They already knew that I was the right person to go to. So the focus was mostly on them and building a relationship. So there were the similarities, but coming into sort of the online world, sort of more as a sort of a communication expert, I found the challenge that I had to switch, not only switch hats, but switch sort of mindset hats. And I had to get out there. I had to, in a sense, start all over again and say, hey, this is me, this is Marianne, you want to hear about me. And so I suddenly had to start talking about me, my stories, and that was an interesting challenge to actually flick over to being in the limelight myself.
That is always hard for a lot of people to talk about themselves. It's a lot
Mm.
easier, especially for helpers, to
Yeah.
talk about just their clients. And so talking about yourself is challenging.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to touch on that a little bit later in the interview, but
Yeah.
what do you suggest is the best way for coaches to engage with their ideal clients and start to be able to draw them in and tell those stories?
Well, I would say nowadays, with the power of video, that video is an ideal way to start to widen your reach. So yes, obviously there's in-person speaking, but now on the internet, with next year, it's predicted to be enormous, like 85% of internet traffic is video. So video is, I'd say, is a very powerful way of getting out there so that you can actually really connect, and not only connect with them in real time, but also connect with them on the replays. And so, whether I'm 12 hours time difference with you, then you can still catch up and start to feel you get to know me. So video is very powerful. And it's the one thing that if you look at some of the big influencers, they might relegate a lot of their work, whether it's videographers and maybe script writers. But the one thing they'll do is they'll get out on the video because people want to see their face. So video is huge, and it makes it, and it's affordable for you as a coach to get out there. So it's a wonderful tool that we have available.
So beautiful. So why do you think video and sometimes even live video are the best ways to build connection and get to know your audience?
Okay, yeah, no, it's a good question. Well, when it comes to video, though, of course, you can do what I'm talking about here in this specific. You don't always have to get on sort of with your face out there and say, hey, this is me. But if you actually want to connect with people, it's really, really powerful. It develops the know, like, and trust factor. Mm-hmm. I've had clients, I've had people I've been talking to, even for market research, say, well, I'll watch the video to judge where I want to work with that coach, because it's so different. Though it's powerful to have your blogs and your write-up, and you have to do that as well, when you get out there and start to talk, people can get the feel of you as a personality, whether they might want to work with you. And so I would say video really has a very strong and important place in your marketing and for keeping the connection with your clients. When it comes to live video, I think both of them have their power. And I think what's wonderful about live video is that there's a sense when you do a live and you've got, often it's maybe more your audience coming to you, but as you're building on Facebook, new people might come and see. People feel that they have that live, real-time connection with you. So I've done some live videos where, and they can maybe see, they feel they're in my sitting room. And sometimes I've had videos when this huge ambulance has gone, and I've just had to say, well, I'm sorry, there's an ambulance, and thank goodness it's not us. And people really relate to that. So that's really great. And they can ask questions real time. So, yeah, there's that sense of excitement of yeah, we're in this together, you and I.
And a lot of times people are so worried about, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if the siren goes by because I'm like right next to a hospital or whatever? Because I used to live next to a hospital, and it would happen all the time. And I'm like, I just get over it. Like, just getting over that fear of imperfection and getting out there.
Yes.
And a lot of people feel like an imposter. Like if I get on their live, especially if it's not rehearsed, they're going to know that I'm basically full of it. And you had to overcome this. How did you overcome the fear of being in the spotlight?
No, that's a really good point. First of all, I'd say with anything, any of these, it's sort of like an ongoing challenge. But for me, it was all right. Even on the live, was feeling some sort of connection with the camera. It really, actually, from that point of view, doing a few live, or even doing some of the first lives, that really helped me because there was evidence, even though I could count my views on the other ones or afterwards, there was evidence if people made comments that they'd actually viewed video. And so that connection will always, I feel, give you the social proof to boost your confidence. And really just to feel that you're, first of all, with the imposter syndrome, I think it's common for so many people. Every time I think you take a step out of the comfort zone, something's going to tweak in that area. So do remember that. So what helped me was that connection with my audience in real time, that people really ask the questions or ask the questions later. And I thought, oh, they're really listening to me. Trying to, if the siren goes off, remember, as you said, perfection rarely comes to any of us. You know what? If you come across as totally perfect, I don't know, people don't particularly like it. We relish the imperfections in each other. Not that we celebrate it, but it makes us feel more connected. So when the sirens go off, and if the siren goes off, and it does on your video, and you're doing a live, at least mention, oh, there's a siren out there. So you don't look all distracted and think, oh no, just say there's a siren going on. I hope you can hear what I'm saying at the moment. Yeah, so at least sort of actually talk them through it, because especially if you're doing a live, you are in a real-time conversation with those of you who join you. So yes, and then finally as well with that is just remember that you have got, and this is what I'm passionate about a lot, your story, you have your unique twist, and you've got a lot to share. Yeah.
That is so awesome. I love just the imperfection will connect you more with your audience than getting it absolutely perfect. That is such a great takeaway for our audience.
Yeah.
So tell our audience about your 5-step formula to build that connection through authenticity and visibility.
Sure. Well, the first one, because confidence is the area that I'm really keen on, because confidence for me as well is remember, it's the sort of faith in yourself. So the mindset comes first. I feel it's always, I say, there's always a little conversation with ourselves that's going on, and we need to help change that mindset a little bit, give us that opportunity to try things out. So mindset, and if we use my example of maybe the childhood or not getting it right, how I interpreted it was not necessarily, as a child, was not necessarily real life. And now I can look back at it as an adult and think, oh, okay, everybody just was glad of the opportunity. If I'd been that age, I probably would have done the same. And so it's really just checking really, is there truth like the imposter? Is that really, really true? And one example is we often compare ourselves to some of the very big guys and some of the very big names and think, oh, I can't possibly be like that. So we want to just take a reality check. And one thing that has come to my mind actually recently is I've been watching a lot of building works. And so one thing is that they're making a lot of progress, but it took them a lot of time, first of all, to lay the foundations, right? And I'll come back. That's the sort of some of the next step, lay the foundations, but also the ones that go up very fast, these high-rise blocks, have a big team to help them. So don't compare yourself to a lot of the big influencers, because they have often a lot of teams that will help them get to where they are. So be kind to yourself, and that's the mindset. And every time you get out there, celebrate that you've done it, even if the siren did go off. Oh dear. And then when it comes to your audience, of course, they're very important. That's who you want to connect with. So do regard them as well. Maybe not as friends, but when you're looking at the camera, let's say, or a sea of faces, you might want to start thinking of them as your ideal clients or whoever it is that you're actually speaking to on this video or in this room. And make sure that what you're saying has some relevance to them. So I could say, just for example, I could say the same message in 3 or 4 different ways. Let's say the building example, I could say 4 or 5 different stories, and it's how I pull out the message to say, actually, I've told this story because I wanted to give you guys an example rather than, oh, I just thought of this nice story. And if there's not a direct connection and the audience feel connected and they feel on board, then it's easy to lose them and lose their attention. So yeah, relevance is really good. So we mentioned the story. That's part of the message. It has to be about you, a little bit about you, and make sure there's a connection with them. So in a sense, what's in it for them? Because, we're all busy guys, our attention span, we've got so many things to do. So I want to know, why am I here? Why am I listening to you? Aha, I understand. I'm with you. And so whatever you say, whether it's story or I'm going to tell you about this, make sure you spell out why it's relevant for them. And when it comes to your style, because we do style and setting, there are lots of things that I add to sort of like how you speak and things like that. But for the purpose of our chat together, Amanda, really is what you don't want to do. Whatever you learn about speaking, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. Don't ever lose you. You've got to keep your personal style, because that's actually what your audience will end up loving about you. That's when you start to develop your ideal clients, your ideal audience, they'll want to come to you, Amanda, or you, any of you guys watching, they'll want to come to listen to you because of you, and they'll sense if you're actually being authentic, and so will you, because it will help your confidence if you can think, yes, I really am just being me. It takes a huge amount of pressure off. So the good news is, this is the best thing you can do, is to be you, because that's who people want, and it puts a personal spin, whether they listen to 100 different people on decluttering your house. It might be you and your way, your examples, and the way you say it. When it comes to style, you can learn a lot of tips and tricks when it comes to speaking, and I can cover a lot of them, how you present yourself, what you say. But what you don't want to get lost, especially comparing yourselves to some of the maybe the big speakers. You want to keep your own personal style. So that can confuse a lot of people when they just try to copy other people. And what I was saying is that the good news is about personal style, being you, being authentic, is not only does it make you feel more comfortable, because you don't have to remember to be somebody else, so it's a lot easier, but it's also your audience will pick up, they'll come to you because they love you, and I said that if for example, there could be 100 different people whose niche is decluttering your home. But if I can listen to you and you come across as relaxed and real, then I can think, oh, you really do, in a sense, speak my language. You're going to understand me. I want to come choose you in order to work with. And the audience has, though I've studied all these things to do with communication, nonetheless, most of us have sort of inbuilt computer system that works out whether somebody's being genuine or everything's really artificial and happy and sunny. So keep to yourself, and it's good news, really. So it's not another thing to learn. You have that skill already.
So good. So good. Just a reminder that we have that skill, like it's already innately built into us to be ourselves.
Yeah.
So what if somebody wants to speak either in video or on stage, but they're like, I don't feel confident. I don't feel, like I'm ready. Can you provide some insights to building confidence when speaking?
Yeah, sure. I decided for this one just to give it 5 Ps. so really, if you choose, you want to make sure that when you're talking, because sometimes whatever you do, you want to, again, like you say, you want to get it all perfect. You want to get it right. And it's very easy for us to start worrying, have I included this and have I included that? First of all, put whatever it is your personal passion in. What do you actually enjoy speaking about? Even if it's the story to illustrate your point in your talk. Because when we start to talk about what we love, what we enjoy, then it starts to make it easier for us. And it starts to make it easier for us, even if there are interruptions in the room or interruptions because of the siren, we can come back more easily. So a lot of us think of the fear of speaking because we're told we have to go and say this. But when we come from the heart and we actually feel that connection and talk about what we love, it does help with those steps, in the confidence. Then, of course, there's some practice. So really, I would say, of course, never be harsh on yourself, because, if you keep taking steps out of your comfort zone, sometimes it can come back again, which is totally natural. And so, but practice, go out there in small steps, take small steps. So if you're not used to speaking on the stage or workshops, but you don't mind doing the videos, then do the videos and build up to, so you can start to hear yourself talk. You can actually say, yes, I've done this small thing. If you're not quite ready for the video, but go to a networking meeting, start talking to people about your business. So keep practicing it and celebrate one thing, at least one thing that you did really, really well, okay? Because so many of us forget to do that. We just criticize ourselves. Also, you want to prepare a little. Now, just really in the sense, not over, so that you start to worry about, is this perfect, is this right, and easily give up, but just have some idea of what you're going to speak about and the relevance that it is, as we talked before, to the audience. So your audience might change sometimes. It won't always be the same. So just have a little check-in. You might want to tweak something. So that preparation, even if you've spoken it out loud to yourself beforehand, might just help you, and often does, to get out there and do it. And then the last one is to patrol. That's the mindset, okay? So every time, I remember I was teaching my students earlier on in the year course, and I remember hopping on live and said, hi, I've used my step system, because I had to go in a different setting. I had to do this pitch, and everything was slightly different. So I had to go through my steps. And it was very easy to slip. I didn't have to do it, so it would have been very easy to say, oh, maybe not now. No, I don't think I can do this, or I'm not ready for it, or nobody wants to listen, as you say, the imposter, all of those things. Listen to your mind and allow yourself to be a bit more friends and persuade it a little bit otherwise, because we're going to always be slightly geared towards the negative, prehistoric protection factor for us. So check what might be preventing you. Sometimes it's very sensible, and sometimes it is a lot of fear. So just check in with that mindset.
So awesome. Can you just go over briefly those 5 P's again?
Yeah. So passion. You want to have something that you enjoy speaking about, even if it's in checking in your story, so that helps. When it helps you and it helps engage your audience, because we can pick up that you love what you're doing. And then there's the practice. So you don't have to worry, that it becomes so much that you actually don't do it, but just even if it's just little steps, so that, because then we can tell ourselves, oh yeah, well, I have actually done this, and to celebrate the steps. So we talked about different little steps you could do, really just to take you one step on the road, and not worry about aiming for the big prize, or take one step at a time, celebrate it, prepare in the sense that make it relevant for the audience that you're speaking to. So again, you don't have to over prepare so that it makes it a huge chore for you, but just give yourself that time, and give yourself a bit of time before your talk to prepare and to relax a bit. And then the last one was patrol, which was your mindset. Keep that conversation going, because so many people sometimes say, oh, keep that mind quiet. And I like to think of it as start to be friends with it and find out what's going, and turn it around, give it other evidence that it's going to be okay.
Love it. So you have a free gift for our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, love to. Yes, it's called 5 Steps So You Can Speak to Engage. And that involves a little bit, obviously it's going to reflect some of the things we mentioned, but it also introduces a little bit more into my story as well, and the lessons that I learned and you can learn from what I did, and sometimes my mistakes or some of my insights, and just some suggestions of how to move forward, and what's a useful way to get either started or to tweak what you're already doing now as speakers.
Beautiful. So that link is just below this video, so go ahead and grab that. Marianne, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate your time and all your tips and your insights and your stories. It's just been so much fun. Thank you.